Welcome to Outdrive, folks. I'm your host, Cliff Callis, and each week I'm bringing you actionable marketing insights you can apply to reach, connect with, and convert rural American consumers. Outdrive is powered by Callis, a full-service advertising agency with a focus on marketing rural America. Callis offers a wide range of integrated marketing services, including website development, search engine marketing, social media, video, and digital. We develop strategic and creative campaigns to build your brand and your business, and you can learn more about us at ecallis.com. Now join me in the front seat as we head out on the road to success. Let's go. Hey folks, welcome to Outdrive. We've got another great program to bring you today about life and work in rural America. In today's digital social media world, face-to-face and phone conversations are becoming a lost art. In the practice of law, many times cases can even be resolved just through a conversation like that. And that brings us to our guest today. Chris Spangler is an attorney and partner in the Spangler Ward law firm. He's also a happy family man, Mizzou grad, and gentleman farmer. Keep listening for Chris's perspective on practicing law in a small town, where his leads come from with new clients, the challenges and rewards of farming, and he also shares some advice that may help you in your own personal or professional life. Welcome to Outdrive, Chris.
Cliff, good morning.
Good morning to you. Got my Barry White voice going from yelling at the football game last night, so I will fight through that battle just like the Chiefs battled.
And a battle it was.
A battle it was, and we came out on the victory side. Well, a bit excited to have you on the podcast.
Happy to be here.
Well, I think we have a lot to talk about. I know we could probably go on and on throughout the morning, but, certainly want to talk about the practice of law and the challenges of that and how you market that, because that's really what people are interested in hearing about is marketing. But you're also a gentleman farmer, and that ties into the ag side of what we do. So I certainly want to hear about your perspective from that side of your life. I know you pay attention to what's going on. So if there's cool marketing stuff that you see happening, and I want you to mention that. And then I know this is your first podcast, but you do have a voice of radio, and I know you've got some experience there. I have the face for radio. You have the voice.
You stole my line. That was going to be my line.
Well, we can both use it now, right?
All right.
All right. So lots to talk about. Before we go down any of those roads, let's just start by having you tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Cliff. So I'm a proud born and raised Missourian. I grew up in Clinton, Missouri, and then I went to the University of Missouri-Columbia and received my undergraduate degree there. And then I received my law degree from the University of Missouri-Kansas City School of Law. After that, I worked for a judge at the Missouri Supreme Court, did a clerkship there for a year, and then moved to Sedalia here on August 1st of 1989, and been here ever since and married. My wife and I just had our 33rd wedding anniversary. We raised 3 sons right here, and we called it home ever since.
3 great sons, I might add.
Thank you.
What'd you earn your undergrad in?
It was radio. It wasn't in the journalism school. At that time, it was an arts and science degree, and it was called in the speech department, but it was in the radio, TV, and film part of the speech department.
Oh, interesting. So you told me that you started doing some radio in high school?
Yeah, so in Clinton, I was probably, I think, 17, started doing the graveyard shifts there and did that. And I think even a summer or two after when I was in college, and then I worked for the university station at Mizzou and did that for 3 years.
Is that where you really thought you were going to go, as radio?
No, not really. It was interesting. I'll try to be brief about it, but I'd always also worked my way through high school and part of college at drugstores. And I thought I was going to go be a pharmacist because I really respected pharmacists and the work that they did. And actually was admitted to the pharmacy school at UMKC, and then I didn't have a credit or something that I needed to have. So that kind of went out, and then it kind of shifted back to law.
So when did you first notice this interest in law, or had you always had it?
Well, I think I always must have had it. I was trying to find it when I was a kid. They did one of those draw a picture of what you want to be when you grow up. And I don't know, I was probably in third grade or something like that and did a crayon picture of me being a lawyer in a courtroom. It was, of course, wasn't very well done, of course, but so I guess it started early.
Still have that drawing, maybe in the living room?
I do. I meant to look for that. I haven't seen it in years, but I need to dig that one up and put it in the office.
Absolutely. That'd be awesome. So I know that you also sort of farm on the side, I guess, is maybe might how you might say that, although farming can be a full-time profession. When did you first start to farm?
About 17 years ago, I want to say was when I had the opportunity to buy my first farm. And, I'd always been interested in it. I always grew up with farm kids, and they've always been some of my best friends. In fact, my oldest friend in this world is a farmer. And so I'd known him forever. I would hang out with them. Our family had a farming background, although my parents were not farmers, but my dad worked his entire life for the International Harvester Company. And so, I had exposure to it from there. And so when I had the means, I always wanted to buy a farm and got that done several years ago.
We'll come back to that here in a little bit. It sounds like Mizzou was always the first choice for education. Was it, or did you think about going somewhere else?
Well, see, all these sidetrack interesting stories. So actually, I had a congressional appointment to go to West Point. And once I got that, then I found out I'd injured my knee playing football my junior year in high school, had a knee surgery, and then found out kind of after the fact that they were not going to admit me because I'd had a surgery. So anyway, Mizzou was always there. It was always in the picture. I'd gone to my first football game up there probably when I was 14, 15 years old. And so it was kind of a natural. And of course, my father had gone there, my uncles had gone there. I'm still doing some history. I think even my grandfather may have gone there at some point in time. So it was a family thing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of strong tradition to that. How do you stay connected with the university today?
So all three of our sons all went there and graduated. They were all third generation grads. So obviously, when we were putting all of them through school up there, we were there all the time. We're season football ticket holders, we're season basketball ticket holders. So we spend a lot of time in Columbia, keep abreast of what's going on up there. We contribute to the scholarship fund and do some things like that.
Well, of course, we're right in the heart of football season. It's a great time to be a Tiger, isn't it?
It is, in fact. Yeah, they've got a good thing going on up there. I think they're number 7 this week in the national polls, and see that the curators approved this $250 million project on the north end zone for the football field. And I know they're doing some other major projects over there. So it's a good time to be a Tiger for sure.
Absolutely. Well, we're recording this middle of September, so that 7 rating will be interesting to see where we are when the podcast actually airs in, 4 to 6 weeks. We'll keep our fingers crossed that we've only gone up. Tell us about Spangler Ward LLC.
Sure. Well, that's my current law firm, which I started with my partner, Laurie Ward, who is a fantastic lawyer and a better person if you can be. Laurie and I are partners. My son, Cale, Darla and I's oldest son, is an associate with us. He's been with us for 3 years now. And so Laurie and I had both been solo practitioners for several years, about 20 years for myself before that. And we had had cases against one another. And we always fought our battles, but we fought them like good people, and we always had a good relationship. And then when Cale started law school, he clerked for Laurie for 2 summers, and he said he'd like to come back and practice in Sedalia. And so Laurie and I talked about it, and we started up a little over 3.5 years ago, and we've had a fantastic partnership.
Well, how would you characterize your brand as an attorney? What are you known for? Why do people come to you? How do you differentiate yourself?
Well, it depends on who you're talking about in the firm. Laurie grew up in Lincoln, Missouri, just down the road, and has had a fantastic following of people that she's represented over the years. Myself, more of a trial lawyer by trade. It's probably about 75% of what I do is we do a lot of civil litigation in the firm. We handle a lot of prosecution and defense of a lot of personal injury cases. We represent some corporations. We're a typical small town law firm that you'll see anywhere in mid Missouri and mid America in the Midwest, where you do the wills and you do some speeding tickets and you make some LLCs for folks. Just the general small town practice of law is a big part of what we do too.
Yeah, well, you do a great job. All of you do. How do you tell people about what you do? How do you market your services? How do people find you if they need you?
In terms of advertising, the only, what I would call affirmative advertising that we do is our website through Callis and Associates, which has been a very good thing for us. Our business really has two components about the marketing. A substantial part of what we do is kind of captive business. We're doing work for repeat corporations, insurers, people like that send us business that we don't have to market for that. And then we have the website, and then the word of mouth is big in small town law firms. People you've represented, our word of mouth people are a big part of what we do.
You think that's probably the strongest marketing that you have? Because it is for most businesses.
The word of mouth.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. We get a lot of calls. We will get anywhere from 5 to 10 calls a week, probably, of people asking for some help with some things. And unfortunately, we can't get around to doing all those things. But that's kind of my gauge about where we are as far as marketing is. Are we getting a lot of calls? And yeah, we're getting a lot of calls. And it's helped me out before. You helped my cousin or my uncle out before. I saw you here, those kind of things.
Yeah, that's a good gauge. Are you getting calls? Because that tells you you're doing a good job and people are telling others. And I guess if the spigot ever dries up, you got to look in the mirror and say, what's going on here?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, I think we're really good about that. We're calling people back and they're calling in and we're talking to them and we're, asking them some questions. And if we can help them, we help them, but we don't leave people hanging and they call in. We don't wait a week to call them back. And one way or the other, that's really important.
I agree. So, are there limitations as to what an attorney or a law firm can do to advertise? There's some things that are restrictive, or is it pretty wide open today?
Well, unfortunately, in my opinion, I think the advertising rules for lawyers are pretty lax. When I started out doing this, 35 years ago, there really wasn't much in the way of lawyer advertising. And now it's everywhere. And you can't turn on a TV, you can't drive down an interstate. Now they're popping up on your computer, all these advertisements, and they're back and forth. My wife watches this soap opera that she drags me in to watch it every once in a while. Literally, there will be on the Kansas City station, for example, there will be 3 lawyer ads in a row, TV ads in a row. And I'm not a big fan of that. I don't think it puts the profession in very good light. But I think about as far as only the restrictions you'll see in the real fine print at the bottom of a TV ad or whatever, it says the choice of a lawyer is an important decision and shouldn't be made based upon advertising alone. As far as I know, that's the standard.
Yeah. So, with your radio background, you never thought of spinning up some radio spots?
No, nobody's ever asked me to do that. So I guess I would if somebody really wanted me to do that. So it hasn't crossed my mind.
Okay. Well, just keep it out there. You never know. Well, I know you pay attention to what's going on in the world. What do you see out there that's happening from a marketing perspective that you think is pretty cool?
Well, I just kind of see it from the legal standpoint. We kind of talked about that, what's going on in the law firm world as far as marketing. I don't have a good handle on that, Cliff, to be honest with you, how it affects the population in general. But like I say, everything's so internet based now, it seems like. And back when you started, when I started, advertising was the old phone book, it was the old yellow pages. And those aren't around to be seen anymore, and probably for the best. But it's an electronic world. And whether you're getting it on the internet or if you're on Twitter or social media, you're getting it that in that fashion. That is a big part of it. You used to get mail marketing things by mail. I don't see much of that anymore. So it's just an electronic world we live in.
Yep. We've got a broadband connection that we carry around with us everywhere we go. And if we don't have it, it doesn't feel right. I'm curious. I don't think that I've ever asked you this question. But why did you choose to settle down and practice law in a small community versus a large city? I'm sure you had opportunities to stay in Kansas City or maybe even go somewhere even bigger. Why'd you choose small town?
Well, yeah, I did. I had a chance to go to work for a big law firm in Kansas City, very well known firm up there. But, I'd kind of done 2 years of clerkships up there. And I just, I'm a small town guy. As I said, I grew up in Clinton, Missouri. And I lived a couple other places in my childhood that were all small town Missouri. That was where I wanted to be. I saw the hubbub of city life. And at that time, I was certainly, hopefully, I was going to get married. I was going to have kids. And, I wanted them to be in a small town. And that's where I landed here. And I've never had any regrets about that. Could I make more money probably in Kansas City? Yeah, sure could have. I bet I could have. But the quality of life is different. The costs are different. And we've called this place home now for a long time and we love it here.
Yeah, it's a pretty great place, pretty great lifestyle. Well, let's shift over to farming. Tell us about your farming operation.
Sure. So I have a farm southwest of Sedalia, outside of a town called Green Ridge, Missouri, and it's a row crop farm. And that's all that I have ever done as far as the farming part of it is the row crop stuff. As you say, kind of more of a gentleman farmer as opposed to a guy that's out there running the tractor and on the combine, the planter, et cetera. Put in a lot of hands-on work over the place. I've had a couple of different farms in the past, and we've always done work to clean those up. As far as work I would do, it's brush hogging work and taking down fences and things like that. So that's really the extent of my hands on. Now, as far as what I've done has been a sharecropping agreement with a really good farmer here in this area. And we sit down and we make decisions every year before we plant. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what we think we need to do. What's the marketing angle? Speaking of marketing, what are we looking at for marketing our agricultural products in the upcoming year? What does it look like? What's out there from this year's crop? What's it looking like? Looking at the futures board, seeing what we think may be the most profitable angle. So that obviously been involved in that part of the business.
How the crops look this year? Of course, again, we're recording middle of September.
I tell you what, Cliff, they're just fantastic. I tell you, I travel a lot. I basically, when I travel business wise, I don't go out of state very often, but locally in this area, I probably cut 120-mile radius around Sedalia, basically the Kansas line, as far east as Columbia, up north somewhere. They're fantastic here in Missouri. Our weather was just perfect. I think that's that way throughout the Midwest. When you look at how the crop prices have fallen since January, there's big crops. We've already seen a bunch of those, heard some tales around here. Corn is coming out now. By the time this hits the air, everybody will probably be close to being done. Soybeans aren't coming out yet, but the corn crop here is just, it's fantastic.
Nice to have a year like that, isn't it?
It is, well, it's the give and take of being a farmer, right? So you have big crops, and when you have big crops, the prices go down. When you have a short year, they seem to go up. So there's always this give and take in the farming world. You have good crops, and you want to be the only guy that's got the good crops, and maybe other people don't. So maybe the prices stay up, and you have a big year. But that's kind of the consequence of having a big crop. And they say in the farming business, a big crop always gets bigger. And so who knows where we're going to go price wise, but you'd rather have a big crop and take your chances on the prices than the alternative.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you like to hunt. Does that factor into why you got into buying farms and farming?
Oh yeah, for sure. That's one of the benefits of being a landowner is having some places to hunt. And, I did that growing up as a kid. And unfortunately, I haven't done as much as I used to. But yeah, that was one of the goals of having a little piece of property.
So with your farming and your law practice, and I know you play a little golf, I know you're active with Mizzou sports. How do you balance everything? How do you find the time to do everything you want to do?
Well, it's just a matter of scheduling your time and going from there. And we're pretty planned people as far as, our business life. We schedule things out months ahead, particularly trials and things like that. So right now, we're September of 2024. We're booking trials into a year or more out from now. So we have calendars and that takes care of the business side of that. And then Obviously, my wife and I, we figure out what we need to do and what we want to do. And we get things on the calendar and put things down. We try to do family vacations and get all those things. And we get a hold of everybody. And we just say, hey, we're putting this on the calendar. We're going to do it.
So you're booking trials a year in advance. Is the docket so full that it takes that long to get on there?
Depends on what county and where you're at is a deciding factor. Some counties, you can do stuff quicker than that, but other places they're way out. And then we finally worked our way out of, we had a huge COVID backlog, and that pushed cases back 2 years or more in certain counties. I do a lot of work down at Lake of the Ozarks area in that judicial circuit, and it's always busy. And it just has always been that way. And so even pre-COVID, it was times that we were looking a long ways out. So it can be a lengthy process, and it's difficult to explain that to clients. But we just have to tell them that's the world that we live in, and we'll have to go from there.
Once you have a trial on the docket a year ahead, how often do you settle that case? Is it half the time, part of the time, sometimes?
Oh, no, much more than that. It's a high percentage. Cases really don't go to trial. Civil cases, I'm talking about. Now, criminal cases do, but the trial of a lawsuit is becoming a lost art. And it's unfortunate that the younger generations of lawyers are not getting to try cases because that's the only way that you learn is to do it. But over the last, I'm going to say 20, 25 years or so, the courts and the judges have really encouraged civil litigants to settle their cases. And a big source of that is mediation. And we resolve a lot of cases through mediation, and so they don't go to trial. So if I talk to a given client and they say, what's the chances of this ever going to trial? Because clients don't want to go to trial. I understand that. It's an uncommon thing for them. And again, speaking in generalities, that probably 90% of civil lawsuits are resolved without a trial. And that's either because the claim doesn't have any merit and it gets dismissed because for various reasons, or because it settles in some fashion, whether because due to negotiations between the attorneys or through the work of a mediator. So the actual numbers of trials is very small, and that's why it's kind of becoming a lost art for the younger attorneys in the world.
Yeah, I would think if you were to go into the practice of law, recognizing that not everybody is a trial attorney, but if that was something you really wanted to do, just from my television background experience, that's watching TV, not being on TV, that seemed like it would be a real exciting risk and reward way to make a living.
Oh, for sure. And if you're by trade, you're a competitive person. You deal from that perspective. And it is. And I've tried a lot of lawsuits. It's very rewarding, but it is a lot of work and it is stressful because you don't want to lose a case. And so you have that mentality, and the person you're dealing with or the attorneys you're dealing with on the other side usually have that same mentality. And so you sharpen up your pencil and you go to work. The trial of a lawsuit is work. There is some nervousness about it, but it is fun and it's rewarding. And I'll say this real quick. It's kind of on that same subject that people talk about. I really appreciate the service of jurors because they have to give up their time. They don't get paid squat to do what they have to do. But I will tell you this, that, I've talked to a lot of people that I don't want to be on a jury or that have sat through jury selection, that they didn't get picked and they didn't get to sit on the jury. But the ones that have actually been jurors on a case, almost unanimously, they have told me that they thought it was an interesting and a rewarding experience. They may not have liked the cases that they had to sit on because some criminal cases can have some pretty nasty content to them, but they almost universally say, I kind of complained about this, but I'm glad I did it. I'm glad that I was able to serve and it was a good experience.
Yeah, I could see it'd be really fascinating. I have never had the opportunity to serve on a jury. I've been called a couple times for one reason or another, wasn't asked to serve, but I agree. I think it'd be really interesting to be a part of that. Again, depending on the case.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's some that nobody wants to sit on. And I understand that. Criminal cases, really.
Yeah, that could be challenging. Well, you've been a successful attorney for many years. You've got a great life built for yourself. What are some of your life hacks? How do you keep yourself on track? How do you get things done? What are some tips you can pass along maybe to the younger generation that they could put into their lives and help them be successful as well?
I think the biggest thing, obviously, is your family, and you have a great family. And I've been very lucky to have a good family, but friends are so important, and you can't have enough friends. I've been really blessed to have a lot of good, close friends, people that, if I asked them to do something, they would do it in a heartbeat without a question, and I would do the same for them. So I think that's really important that you have a broad sphere of friends in your life. And then, you obviously, you're going to work and you're going to do your things, but you're going to need to have your outside things that you want to do, whether you go play golf or whether you go to sporting events or you're in a book club or whatever it is, where you're getting socialization skills. Because that's one thing I would tell the younger people in the world is we're too, in my opinion, it's too much social media and it's too much texting and it's too much even that we do professionally emails. And I say that because even in business, we are exchanging emails, legal business. And there's been many occasions when I will just tell somebody that's sending me emails, I said, here's my phone number, pick it up and call me. And let's talk about this because I've resolved more things with a 5-minute phone call or less that would have been 30 minutes, 40 minutes worth of emails. I think that's another lost art is not having personalization with people, talking to people face to face or even on the phone. I see that too as people that are working at home. I'm not speaking whether that's good or bad. I'm just saying that you don't have the contacts. I'm seeing it with my sons who don't go in the office all 5 days of the week. And sometimes they go in and they're not supposed to. But again, you miss that business socialization, that business networking, whatever you want to call it. I would really encourage younger people to do that. Get yourself out there, get yourself in a group, do something for a civic organization, anything like that, where you get out of the house and can expand your wings a little bit.
That's all really great advice. Maybe there's somebody out there that's listening to the podcast. They need an attorney for some reason. They like what you have to say. They've heard good things about your firm. How would they get a hold of you?
Probably the best place is just to go to our website, spanglerward.com, and all of our information is there. And you can look us over there. We've got our bios in there, got our pictures in there, kind of tell you what we do. And that's probably the easiest way to find us in this electronic world since we don't have phone books. Obviously, the phone number at the office is 660-827-1770. That's the main phone number. Encourage people to call in. We talk to people. Most cases, if we're going to have an in-office meeting with somebody, we usually don't charge a fee for that for an initial consultation. Depends on what it is. That's kind of how we operate on that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So spanglerward.com. Well, Chris, the focus of our podcast is marketing to rural America, and I'm glad that we've been able to weave in some of that for both law and agriculture. When I say the words rural America, what's that mean to you?
Well, maybe best as an example. This is rural America, and that can be the Midwest. It can be anywhere. Rural America to me is people that are friendly. It's people that will help you out, people that'll hold the door open for you at the store. They'll help you jump your car if your battery's dead, things like that. Another example, I was at a small town fair and it was just like that. It was kind of the Norman Rockwell kind of picture that you expect, where they had the kids' tractor pull, where they're pedaling the little tractors. Everybody's nice. They knew everybody's kids that were there. They were all cheering for every kid that went up and down the line on the tractor pull. That's what it means to me. It's just people that are friendly and they're your neighbors and they'll take care of you. If you treat people right around here, they're going to treat you right.
All about the people. Like you said, you can't have enough friends. And ladies and gentlemen, Norman Rockwell is alive and well in rural America. Hey, Chris, I've really enjoyed having you on the podcast today. What else would you like to share with our audience that you think they might find interesting or maybe inspiring?
Well, I don't know, interesting or inspiring. Obviously, we have an election coming up this year, and people, wherever you're at, you need to go vote. Whatever your persuasion is, you need to go out and take care of that because I think it's an important election this year. They always are. So I would certainly encourage people to go exercise their right to vote and do that. Again, I would just kind of go back to treat people right and they'll treat you right, and all will be fine in this world.
Amen. Hey, Chris, thanks for being with us.
Cliff, thanks for having me.
Hey, I've enjoyed it. Folks, thanks for listening to Outdrive. If you've enjoyed our show, please go out there on your favorite audio platform and give us a rating and review. Thanks to Chris Spangler, local attorney, for being with us today. I hope you enjoyed it. Come back again next week, and I'll take you down the roads of rural America where it's heaven on earth.
Thanks for taking a ride with us on Outdrive. This episode is complete, so head on over to ecallis.com for more insight you can apply to help drive your business growth. And be sure to sign up for our free monthly e-letter, Outthink, for even more helpful content about marketing to rural America. Have a great day and keep on driving.